Welcome to Loose Ends Ranch, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I have a bin fan in the background. I figured this was the best possible place to get going with this. Welcome to our farm. This is Loose Ends Ranch. I'm David Luce. This is our 102, I believe, if I can do math, year-old farm. Yep, that's right. We're in central Alberta. We raise organic beef, grain, and hemp. That's why you clicked on the video. Let's get going. So on our farm here, Loose Ends Ranch, we are primarily beef producers. We grow crops and we grow hay and we combine and we do all sorts of stuff to produce beef. That's what we do. Hemp is something completely different. Now by CFIA regulations, we are not allowed to feed this stuff to cattle. So that means we're selling it as human food. Hemp hearts is what these little guys are gonna be going for. Those little guys, they're in shells right now. You bust out the heart naturally, and that's what you put in your smoothies if you're being healthy, or cereal like me. So we found in producing cow feed, in layman's terms, okay, bear with me, we don't need all our acres all at once to be producing, okay, silage, green feed, grain for our cattle, okay. So we grow hemp as a commodity product to sell. It's like a cash crop, so to say. Oh boy. Now there are many issues associated with growing hemp, okay? Number one, it's just really tough. You've heard of hemp rope? Yeah, that's what this stuff produces. But we're after the seed, right? It's in these big heads. That's where the hemp heart stuff is. That's what we're contracted to sell. That's where the money is, okay? Now with this stuff, we can contract it. Oh my goodness, this stuff is hard to walk through. Now, contrary to what you may think, emergence is very, very hard to get with hemp. It's nice and big and it's tough and it's strong, but it's very weak when it's pushing up through dirt. Once it emerges through the soil, then it's good, it's fine. You don't have to look at it again. But until then, it'll struggle. So the biggest struggle that we have personally on our farm is seeding it as shallow as possible because it doesn't push up. In our gray wooded soil, it's lumpy and it's hard, it's void of oxygen, it's just really tough to work with. So we just barely scratch the seed on the surface of the field in the springtime, hoping that it germinates quickly. And in our organic production, obviously, we are not allowed to use weed spray, okay? Whoa, this stuff is hard to walk through. It's like a jungle in here. So with organic weed control, we rely very heavily on what's called a canopy. Okay, now this is a canopy. So when the seed germinates and it starts bushying out and starts growing, the hemp will canopy over the undergrowth. Okay, so down here you can see little bits of clover. What else is growing? There's a dandelion, I think. I don't know what that is. There's not much here. In the places where the hemp didn't germinate as well, there's lots of weed. Nature will cover the ground, and that's what it does. I mean, the weeds get the sun, the weeds take off. The weeds don't get the sun, and they're not really a problem. I mean, this stuff has already been combined. There's some pigweed, and there's not really much here. This stuff never saw any weed spray, but look at it. All that's really growing here was hemp. Big player in organic weed control. Now this is a good example of what organic farming shouldn't look like. Okay, this is what a lot of people like to criticize organic farming as being, but it's not. Okay, we're at a gate. Hemp doesn't like compaction. It didn't germinate very well. The weeds took over. We have clover, we have thistle, we have stinkweed, chickweed, pigweed, whatever you call it, all kinds of stuff. Not bad really, of course we don't want to see it, but it's nature's way of covering the soil. Now we combat that by having good emergence, good growth in our plants, good fertilizer, organic fertilizer to give those plants the boost they need to get the jump over the weeds. Now the next and probably the biggest challenge we have in hemp growing is the combining. Now you got to be very careful with how early or how late you combine. If you combine it too green, you get too many green kernels in your sample, it's called, and you get docked for it because there's not enough that's ready. But if you combine it too dry, too ripe, the stalks turn to rope, hemp rope basically, and it wraps on the reel and it wraps on the beaters and it wraps on everything, and you're stopped for hours trying to fight it. And so we combat wrapping in the combine by getting it when it's green. That's a nice tough green stalk. It snaps off, it cuts easier, and sure, we are still left with the long stringy bits famous for hemp, but it's not gonna wrap. And so the worst thing that can happen is when the hemp is dry and it wraps really bad, it can wrap next to a bearing. Now that is horrible because it'll actually blow the bearing. It'll break the seal on the bearing, making it useless. You know, the bearing is a bearing because it has little balls in there that help roll the shaft. That's layman's terms again for what a bearing is if you're not really sure. Now that is bad because when you blow the bearing, it actually creates high amounts of friction really quickly, and that causes fires. That's what hemp is most famous for, is combine fires. Combine it green, you lower the risk of fire. Which for us, whew, no combine fire, not this year. It's a good thing. So hemp fiber is broken up into two different parts, okay? So this stuff is the hurd. This stuff is inside the stem, and it is what gives it strength. So we bust one of these guys off right now. The inside part right there is the hurd. Now that is used for hempcrete, insulation, bedding, all kinds of stuff. I can't count. Secondly, the bast fiber. Now this stuff is valuable if you know how to handle it. China, Ukraine, Romania, all those countries that have developed their hemp industry over hundreds of years have this stuff down pat because they use their machines to take this stuff, refine it down, get the long fibers that you get out of 4 to 6 foot plants. They get them, they refine them down again, and they make thread. Now thread in hemp is very, very valuable, okay? But in this stuff is 15% of the stem of a plant. And in this 15%, there's only 15% that is actual usable, spinnable hemp fiber. That's why it's so expensive. Looking good.
Oh yeah. Able to cut over top of a lot of the dockage.
The dockage is the stuff that's growing underneath the weeds. Hemp will show you where your different soil type is and why this spot might be a little different than that spot over there. How many acres is this field?
46. Opening to 1,000 pounds an acre. That stuff's over 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
It's hard to cut it tall enough because the header tips back and then the auger doesn't run right in there. I almost need to tilt the header down.
Running real good though, really good. So we run a 2006 9760 STS John Deere combine with a 35-foot Hydroflex header. And shut the window. Whew. as it's combined, dump it in the truck, and you want to get it into the aeration bin as soon as possible, because if it sits for more than 3 hours, it'll start to spoil, and that's not good. Not happening. Something that is very important for all hemp farmers to be aware of when they're growing hemp is that it's very fragile, and you don't get paid for the seed that is cracked. I have to turn this fan off so I can hear myself think. Okay, that's better. No jelly arms, no jelly arms. Okay, so we're at the top of our aeration bin. So from way down there, I already sent the truck back, comes all the way up here. So the hemp goes into here. Now, there's a cone in there called a rocket. And from outside, there is a fan that blows air into that cone, and it fills that entire space in there and all that hemp with air. Now the idea is that it keeps it from spoiling, keeps it from getting hot and molding. Now down there, and that big thing is our dryer. Let's go down there and take a look at it. So this grain dryer is a continuous flow dryer, it's called, which means that it just doesn't stop. It's all temperature activated and an automatic auger, so they turn on and off. There's a pressure plate switch in there which the auger is plugged into, so that when it empties down in there, it turns the auger on, keeps it full. Now the tractor runs the fan. The propane tank is what the burner runs off of, which blows hot air into it. So if you can see in there, I don't know if you can really see in there, there's a big cavity in there, and so that open space there is where the hot air goes into, and the hemp sits on the outside and they run down the side, and there are thermometers here, and when those thermometers hit a certain temperature, it triggers the auger down in the side here, there's one on each side, to start turning, which empties out the bottom. So when that temperature reaches a certain point, we know that it's dry. So then it cycles down and it sends the stuff into this section here in the bottom. You see there's two sections. That part is drying, this part is cooling, because we don't want hot grain, hot hemp, in this case, going into the bin. So once it's cool, it goes up and into the truck. Now we are actually limited in what we can do. It has to go into a truck because we don't have a grain leg, don't have another auger or anything fancy like that. So it goes into the grain truck. We have to shut everything off and then move the big red auger into that metal bin there. That's how it works. We got it going for the first time 2 days ago, and it worked pretty good. Didn't have any too many, let's use grammar, David. We didn't have too many issues, which was awesome, and hoping for the same thing tomorrow, because we're going to be finishing that field today, starting to dry tomorrow. So the hemp going into this bin here is about 20%, which is really, really tough. And so we keep it cool in here until we can dry it. We got to get it down to 8. The contractor wants it at 8% moisture. No more, no less. Perfect handling moisture. Keeps it from cracking, keeps it from spoiling. That's how it works. I got to get the fan back on. So at the end of the day, is hemp worth it? Absolutely. I mean, I'm a beef guy, okay? Hemp over beef, I'll take beef 10 times out of 10, okay? But for the majority of people, okay, they don't have access to super high quality beef. Now, I'm not saying that hemp is an adequate replacement to beef, but it's better than nothing. You see, hemp has quite a high source of protein. Okay, that's better than a lot of things. Is it higher than most things? No, it's just pretty standard. But it's a good, sustainable source of energy, which sustainability, it's a hot topic in this world. It's good, it's productive, it's healthy, it's profitable for farmers, and it tastes good. Pick yourself up some hemp. And as always, thanks for watching. I should have put milk in this stuff, or yogurt or something. Tastes good.